Welcome to the Daily Technology Pulse podcast by Daily Computers, your expert technology partners for public and private sector organizations throughout Maryland and Virginia. This episode is brought to you by Barracuda. You need network protection from ever-evolving threats. Protect email, data, applications, and more with award-winning quality to enhance your organization's security. And now, here's your host, Rick from Daily.
Joining us today on the Technology Pulse, we have Michael Townsend, and he's with Barracuda. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing well, Rick. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. And Michael, you are the National SLED Solutions Architect. Tell us a little bit, what exactly does that mean?
I cover for Barracuda, I cover anything in the SLED, which is state and local education. As a solution architect, I provide information of how our products work in those particular fields. And so I cover the whole United States and Canada, basically, what I do. And I support our other solutions architects on calls.
Excellent. Now, Michael, I know we've had you on a couple of times. This is your third time, so you're a three-timer. We should probably get you like a jacket or something.
I would like to wear one.
Kind of like what they do with Saturday Night Live with the 3 and 4 and 5 timer club. No, but we really appreciate you coming back, because I know the last two episodes that we did, folks, particularly in the education sector, were thrilled with the information that you shared, especially because you've been there. You have a very storied background in education. It's over 30 years, correct?
That's correct. I did 30 years with the Tuscaloosa County School System as retired as a CTO and an E-rate coordinator at my last part of my tenure.
I do not envy the E-rate coordinator thing. E-rate is something that gives me fits usually.
Well, and I thought I got rid of it, Rick. I really did. And then I come over to Barracuda and they go, hey, we need someone to do E-rate. So guess what? I do E-rate for Barracuda too. So I can't get rid of it.
But you've got that mindset and you've got that experience, and that is what's really helpful.
Right.
Now, Michael, I want to say the last two times that we talked about archiving and we talked about backup and recovery, and those are still very important topics. So anybody who hasn't listened to those episodes of the podcast, highly recommend that you go in and take a listen to those. But at the same time, the world has gotten so much worse since we talked over a year ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, before, we were talking about just ransomwares and increased cyber insurance needs, those kind of things, increased phishing attacks. But now we have a new threat factor out there, and that's the AI factor. That threat is out there and it's coming on strong, where before threats were coming in, hackers were hacking actually into your systems. Now they have AI scripts that can run anywhere and go after a countless number of clients out there at one time.
The amazing thing is AI, depending on who you talk to, it's either a blessing or a curse.
Yes.
And we knew that where it was going to help us, there were going to be times where it was going to hurt us as well. And this apparently appears to be one of those times, because with AI, you're just talking about it's relentless and it's endless. It's not like with a hacker. Sure, those guys get all amped up on energy drinks and can go for hours at a time, but they eventually get bored and have to move on to something else. AI is just not going to quit.
No, it's not going to quit. It's going to keep going and going and going. It's like the Energizer Bunny rabbit. It's not going to stop.
Yes, I do remember those commercials, and they still bring that character back because it is so true. It is. Not necessarily the batteries, they do eventually die, but AI, like you said, the Energizer Bunny, it really does. It keeps going and going. And so now this has gotten to a point where anybody, and it's not just public sector, but particularly the public sector, they're in serious danger, whether they know it or not, because it's really a lack of resources, especially in the days now where budgets again are shrinking and priorities are stretched. They're just not going to have the resources that they would need necessarily to fight this, right?
Right. I mean, if you look right now at the Essential Cybersecurity Hygiene, NIST Cybersecurity Framework 1.1 says there's 5 pillars that we need to be looking at. Identify what you must protect, protect with defense in depth, detect anomalous activities, reduce your response time, and improve your recovery capabilities. Well, we're all in the cybersecurity world as administrators or whoever that's running a network, always trying to identify, protect our network. And we're always trying to recover from something because we don't have time to do everything we need in between. And those pillars of detecting response is what there's a big security gap in a lot of, especially education, especially K-12, especially in the SLED business, because they just don't have the money and the funding to get the manpower to be able to look over every single piece of the network. You know, Rick, when we all first started the networks, we're looking at firewalls. Basically, you know, how can we protect our network? Basic firewall. Here's our border firewall. Now we have all these different pillars out there. Not only do you have your border security, your network infrastructure, you have your cloud security now, you have email security, you have endpoint security, you have all these different securities. And used to one network admin could do everything. Now you got to have multiple network admins, multiple people understand multiple pillars because it's so vast. And then you throw AI on top of this. Where do we begin? I mean, how do we start the process of really doing an overhaul look at the network and protecting your network? And that's something that I'd like to come talk to you today about was the Barracuda XDR platform and how that can take some of that load off of the local end user and put it on where they can focus on other things, and we can help you find those threat hunts, playbooks, and find those problems out there on your network, not just on your firewall, but across your network on different levels.
So let's talk about the XDR solution, because I have to say, us old guys, we always go back to our sayings that we grew up with. You spent 30 years in the public school system. You're not, you're not a teenager. Neither am I. But we have those sayings, and it's always fight fire with fire, right?
Exactly.
And when you're talking about an AI solution, or when you're talking about an AI problem, you've got to have a solution that isn't people driven, because like you said, the resources and the manpower just are not there. You would have to have multiple people working around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, no holidays, no weekends, no summers, nothing. And that's just not going to happen. That's really not in the cards. We don't have that anywhere. I mean, we still have people who are calling 911 centers and not having somebody pick up because they don't have somebody there. So having someone who can monitor every aspect of your network just isn't feasible. But having a solution that can help with that, where, like you said, it's not laborious. It's not all about getting manpower. And it's also about the expertise, because having the expertise in dealing with these cyber attacks, that's a whole other specialized skill set that a lot of people who got into be system admins, they're particularly good at setting things up. But they're not really good when, or when something breaks, simple that they can fix. But this is not something simple. A cyber attack is anything but simple.
Well, I always put it this way when I'm talking to customers too, and we'll talk a little bit about XDR, EDR, NDR next, so we can, because I know a lot of people, I hear these acronyms, but I don't know what they really mean. So, but really quick, what I want to point out is, as a network admin before, at 2:30 in the morning, I wasn't watching my network, right? So what happened if someone at 2:30 in the morning created 5, let's say, global admin accounts on my network? How do I know that was created until after the fact something happened? And then I'm going looking through my log files. Hopefully I can sift through enough of them. If I have some SIM or SOAR out there like Splunk or something, maybe I can see them better. But could you imagine trying to find out those accounts? And that's what led to the infiltration of your network and causing problems. Where if you look at something like a XDR solution that's a true SOC that someone's monitoring, then that's where they're going to call you. They're going to notify you. It's like, it's 2:30 in the morning. You're normally not doing this. Why is 5 global accounts just created on your network? You know, so those types of scenarios, you're going, yeah, I can't pay for someone to monitor that on my own network. Like I can't create a SOC. I can't create the number of positions because we're all bound by the number of heads that we can have in our department, right? So you would think about, well, if I hire a SOC analyst, that's at least $150,000 a year for someone that actually understands networking and the different levels of the network. And then, like you said a while ago, they can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So then you say, well, I'll hire two. Well, they still can't. By the time you start building all this out, you're going to be 4 or 5 people. And that just blew my budget already,
Right.
for just for people. So that's where Barracuda came in, and we have an XDR solution that is a SOC driven. It is not new to us. We've had it with our MSP, so this is not a new tool. We've been running this with our MSP side of our business for the last 6 years. So it's a mature SOC. It's not something we just created this year and said, here you go, people, let's try this out and let's go with it. No, it's actually a mature SOC. It's something that's been out there and we've been running. But I go back to people go, well, I have an EDR or an MDR. So what is an XDR? Well, let's talk about an EDR. EDR is really endpoint detection and response. It focuses on endpoint threats. It's the ability to block or quarantine, investigate threats at the endpoint level. So everybody usually has some kind of endpoint system. Then you have a managed detection and response. Vendors that provide detection and response services, they may provide a SOC service to help triage security alerts, and they may implement security tools such as a SIEM and SOAR. So then what is XDR? Well, that's extended visibility, detection, and response. So what this does, it provides visibility across all attack vectors, detects the attacks from the endpoints, email, cloud, servers, and networks, and much more. And it's a two-way integration between the security tools and XDR platform. So you kind of take the other two pillars and combine them into one big pillar. So you get the best of all the worlds out there. And then on top of that, we run what we call our Sage AI. And again, we talked about a while ago, fighting AI with AI, right? You got to have the tools to fight it with it. So we introduced our Sage AI, which is our next generation AI based detection and prevention system. It's a hyperscaled infrastructure. It's cyber trained learning model. So it rapidly detects, analyzes, responds to complex evolving threats with greater accuracy and speed than the traditional method. And then you have the robust threat intelligence. It enhances our ability as a company to detect, predict, respond to evolving threats in real time, improving accuracy. So we're not giving you all those false positives, adaptability, proactive defense against sophisticated attacks. And then you have the Barracuda managed XCR playbooks that ensure consistent, automated, efficient response to the threat, reducing response time and improving overall security posture. So then we take that AI and it goes into our SOC team. And then our SOC team has 5 different levels of SOC in our SOC team that looks at each one of those that's coming through, give it that human analysis to make sure we're getting the true information. So we're using the AI to gather information, and then we're using live humans to make sure that we're looking at that correctly so we're not giving all those false positives.
Just to clarify, for those who are unfamiliar with the term SOC, that is Security Operations Center.
Yeah,
I always like to spell out those acronyms, but you really do have to have that human component, because this is one thing that the hackers aren't going to have. They're going to plug in a script and it's just going to run and it's just going to keep doing what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And having that response, because one of the things you have to remember is it's not just enough to detect, but you need to respond to it. But just like you said, you could get a lot of false positives, and a lot of times hackers will count on that. They'll count on the fact that the more false positives you have, the easier it is for them to slip in.
Yeah, they figured you're going to finally give up because just a lot of trash in, that you're getting a lot of trash out, as we used to say with coding. But at the same time, I throw enough junk, enough log files at you, and you don't have a way to really analyze them, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going like, I don't have time for this. I got to go do this. I can't look at all these log files. So that's where that AI part comes in too on our side, that we can look at those log files through a SIMSOAR ingestion. And when we look at XDR also with Barracuda, it's not Barracuda products. That's something I want to throw out there. It could be agnostic. We integrate with a lot of different cybersecurity companies, firewalls, Mimecast, Fortinet, Cisco, all those different big vendors out there. We integrate our XDR, so we're not just Barracuda products. It's agnostic across the board through all the different pillars that we support. So we can look at all those different ways and give you an understanding of what your network looks like from a security standpoint.
And then when it comes to the other part of it, because again, it's about responding and it's about making sure that you're able to get that response time down.
Right.
I mean, I have to think that a solution like this is, again, going to be a game changer when it comes to how long it typically takes to respond to some type of cyber attack, because usually it could be days, it could be weeks, it could be months, right?
Right. Yeah. So, within the Barracuda XDR, our SLA is less than 30 minutes of getting to a major threat to you, notifying you, emailing you, to contacting you, saying, hey, there's something happening within 30 minutes.
Wow. And that makes all the difference, because the
Makes a
longer
huge,
it goes on,
yeah.
the more havoc is going to be wreaked.
Well, they say an average right now that most people have someone already in their network. By the time they find that someone's in their network, it's been over 30 days. By the time you find the problem, they've already been in your network snooping around for the last 30 days.
And that's their playbook,
Yes, that's
because
my book.
they're going to sit there and they're not going to cause trouble right away. These are not the
Right,
people that come through the front door like the old West, where they kick open the doors to the saloon and they start grabbing a 6-shooter and firing it up in the air. That's
right.
just calling attention to yourself. That's just not how these people operate. They operate very stealthily. They want to be in there and they want to be nice and snug and comfortable, just sort of hiding out in a dark corner. And then the next thing you know, boom, they're going to do something. And
Yes.
knowing that you can detect before they get all nice and comfy and find that dark corner is amazing.
And the biggest thing is, with, like I said before, your network, a lot of people talk about, well, I'm protecting my network security. Also, you got endpoint security. You have server security, cloud security, and email security. So those 5 pillars, again, are you monitoring each one of those? Or do you need someone help you to monitor and manage those systems? Because again, as a network administrator, think about the thousands and thousands of logs going through just for people logging in to 365. Do you have time to look at all those logs and sift through them? Think about all your web traffic coming through. Do you have time to look at your firewall logs and see who's really hitting your firewalls, servers, who's connecting to your Active Directory, endpoints, or email? Even though you got a great email gateway and system, who's still looking after some of those other solutions out there that can help protect your system? Again, that's where Barracuda found that, most people were missing that gap in that detect and response. So we came up with the Barracuda XDR so we could, in the detect realm, continuously monitor your network. We're doing a threat hunt at the same time. We're just not waiting for something. We're doing threat hunting out there. The event processing correlations and the SOC alert investigation and validation, that's all part of that pillar of detect that we're missing out there that we do every day. But then we take it to the next pillar over, which is the respond that we didn't have time to do. Well, Barracuda XDR gives you the incident analysis. We have an automated responses. We have threat isolation and blocking. We have run books and playbooks that we run out there consistently. And then we have an instant response that gives you a breakdown of here's what's happened and here's some ways to go about fixing the issues. So now you're not scratching your head going, I know this just happened, but what am I supposed to do next? What's my next steps? So it's like you have your own personalized team there working for you.
And that is important, because it's not just finding out that these things are happening, but it's knowing what to do and what steps to take. And this isn't a one size fits all type of thing. No
No.
two threats are alike. No two incursions are alike. They're all going to have different motives for getting into your data and what they're going to do with that data. Sometimes they're looking to just cripple your operations. Other times they're looking to wreak total havoc, wipe
Yes.
out, wipe out information or steal the information and utilize it. Again, there's no there are no two threats that are alike. And so having that team behind you that can tell you this is happening and this is how you need to respond to it is invaluable, because that is, the having cybersecurity professionals with that institutional knowledge, they're in very high demand these days.
Yeah.
And the higher the demand, the higher the price tag.
The bigger that price tag. So trying to build this out on your own, that's what I got to earlier, is trying to have enough people to do this on your own. Try to build your own security operations center. That's another cost. And trying to build the AI and everything else yourself, just it's not feasible anymore. And it's changing too rapidly to try to start and keep up now. And that's one of the things that I loved about when we came out and started selling this from our managed service provider to our other side of the business, is which I'm on, is that now we can offer everyone something that can help protect them. And one of the things I love about our XDR platform, the 5 pillars, you don't have to buy everything at once with Barracuda. You can say, hey, for today, I just want XDR server security, or I just want email security. I want cloud security. I want network security. I want endpoint security. Or you can pick 3 pillars of those. So we have 5 pillars you pick from that will help start building your network. So maybe this year you do one pillar and the next year you do another pillar. So you just kind of slowly build up. That way you're protecting everything. You don't have to do it all at once. Because I'll give you an example. The server security. Think about this. This is what we do with just server security. We take and collect and aggregate and normalize log data from the most critical Windows systems and Linux servers within a network. Identifies potential risk using analytics platform, threat intelligence, and our security operations center all together. And what does that consist of? So we're looking at machine learning. We use machine learning to identify anomalous activity on most critical services. We identify compromises to Active Directory. Server directories overlaid on top of the metrics attack framework to understand attack tactics, predict next steps, and identify the gaps in your coverage. On top of that, you got the 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365-day security operations support and remediation guidance. Remember that word, support and remediation guidance. And we have a multi-tenancy. So at a glance, I view all managed customers' environments. So we can see things going on in other places. Maybe we need to start looking at these other customers as well, too, right? To make sure it's not happening. That's just one of the pillars, what it can do. So if we're looking at that, think about what we're looking at: the email side, your cloud side, your network security side. If you, again, firewalls alone, the log files, I had 20,000 students and you couldn't read the log files because it was traveling so fast, and trying to sift through that is just amazing. I mean, I didn't have enough storage space to store all the log files at one point.
Well, and it's like we used to say, looking for a needle in a haystack. And they say, well, that's easy. If you want to find the needle in the haystack, you get a magnet. What if the needle's not made of metal? Or the haystack is, several miles wide. That
Yes.
magnet is only going to cover a few square feet at a time. It's really about, like you said, the scope and the magnitude of everything
And it
is,
really is.
yeah.
I mean, because you
And
talk
that's
about
not
that.
something.
No, because you talk about that large scalability of, I had 35 firewalls, I had 35 schools, I had a firewall in every school. I'm ingesting all that data from multiple locations, and then when it comes in, I'm trying to sift through which location it came through.
And then you had mentioned coverage, which made me think of something else. So I'm gonna sort of change gears a little bit here because I know what you're talking about when you're talking about coverage. You're talking about making sure that all of your network is covered, and I love that. I do love the phased in approach. I have to say that because we do sometimes see that with a lot of our customers. We can't bring it all on at once, but if we can implement it in phases, then it's more likely to get done. And so we love giving them that option. But
Yes.
the other thing I want to think about when it comes to coverage is the one thing that most people, whether you're a private sector company or you're a public sector organization, you're a county government, you're a state government, you're a local government, you're a K-12, or you're a higher ed institution, you have to have insurance coverage. And what most people do not understand is that your regular business insurance is not going to cover anything when it comes to cybersecurity.
No, it does not.
Not a thing.
And
And a lot of organizations don't realize that.
yeah,
They sit there and they think, "Oh no, I've got all of my systems are insured." Yes, the physical systems are insured. That's under your regular property and casualty insurance.
that's
Property and
correct.
casualty insurance covers zero when it comes to any type of cyber attack, when it comes to data, when it comes to system downtime, when it comes to people downtime, when it comes to recovery costs, none of it. You have to have cybersecurity insurance that is very specialized insurance. And getting that cybersecurity insurance, they're not going to give it to you unless you meet a certain standard of cyber compliance.
Correct. And this helps with that because now you have the extra layer looking at all your networks and you have the extra manpower basically is not going to guarantee you insurance. It's just that next level. It's like when MFA came out. Insurance is required. Okay, you must have MFA to continue to have insurance. And this is kind of like the next level of that insurance world. And you talk about insurance, we're not an insurance company. We don't deal on that side of the business. But I just found out too recently is that even with cybersecurity insurance, you as the administrator is not covered under that insurance. There's other
Wow.
cybersecurity insurance for that now that covers you as the individual as a network administrator. And as a former CTO and a former network administrator for many years, that's what kept me up at night was not just the threat factor from outside the world, was all the threat factors inside my network already. My people became my threat factor. So, trying to protect my stuff not just from the outside world, but the inside. And number two is when I go back to work the next day, if it's hacked and broken, they're not going directly to the CSFO or to the superintendent and go, "What happened here?" I'm the front page news. I'm the one that did it all, not my team, me. My name is on the front page.
Yeah, and that would keep me up at night as well. And then again, there's no guarantee. There's never a guarantee in life. There's no
No,
guarantee that you're going to get insurance, but this is what you need if you
this is a
want to
starting
get that
point.
insurance coverage to even start to have that conversation. You're going to need to show a certain amount of achieving a certain level of cyber hygiene. And then
Right.
it's also on the regulatory side too. It's not just on the financial side.
No,
Uh,
right.
you've got regulations that are probably tied to funding
Hmm.
because again, no government, whether it's local, state, county, or federal, wants to just throw money away. You have to have again that level of cybersecurity
Exception.
compliance in order to meet the regulatory aspect of it, and that is going to impact your funding.
I'll give you a great example of that. My CSFO came to me. We're doing a renew of a bid bond for 240 plus buses. And they said, "Michael, I need you to fill this out." And I said, "What is this?" He says, "For us to get this bond renewed, they need to know what our cybersecurity hygiene is." So I went through and filled out everything I had, everything we did, and I had all Barracuda products. I'm not gonna lie about that because I was a huge Barracuda customer. Once I did all that, do you know we went from a AA bonding to a AAA rating? My superintendent, my CSFO came back to me and says, "Do you know how much money you just saved us?" I said, "No, what are you talking about?" They said, "Look what a AAA rating is and look what a AA rating bond rating is and see the difference in costs and percentages." I said, "Great. Can I have that in my budget now?" Of course, no.
No, that's not going to
No, no, no.
happen.
No, you just save money. That doesn't work that way.
It really doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't work that way when you make money and you increase revenues, but at the same time, but that is the thing. You
Yes,
are giving yourself so many different advantages by utilizing something like this, where that's where the ROI really comes in.
right.
Are we investing this money? Is it increasing security? Absolutely. Is it going to have other intangible factors? Definitely. Could those other intangible factors far outweigh the cost of what this solution would be? In many cases, exponentially, right?
Exponentially, yes. When someone gets hit and they have to go through everything they've gone through, and then you show them something like this and they go, "I wish I had that." And you can just feel it in their voices. You can feel it in their soul is like, if I just had that, I probably wouldn't have went through what I went through. And I go, I get you. And but everything's not perfect, but it is a relief to know that you have that next layer, that next step, trying to stay above the current threat factor even with AI out there now.
That is the thing. We need to fight fire with fire, but you need to have better fire. I hate to
Correct.
tell you, I never want to be involved in a fair fight.
I don't either.
No. I want to take every advantage possible to have me come out the victor no matter what. So I don't want to be involved in a fair fight. I want the fight to be unfair on my side.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're touching a few nerves. I have a feeling we are. I have a feeling there are people that are losing just as much sleep as you were losing back in your CTO days. So we want to make sure that they understand what the next steps are if they want to have further conversations about this.
Yes. Please contact DALY. They will get in touch with us at Barracuda and we will sit down together and we would love to demo this product to you. Fully demo it, show you the dashboards, give you examples. We can actually show you live threats that's come through that we've recorded and how we responded to them. So if you would just give DALY a call and tell them you'd like to see the Barracuda XDR, we'd love to sit down and talk with you more about it.
And the great thing about DALY's relationship with Barracuda is we're going to demo this for you. We're going to show you how to work. We're going to give you everything that you need to know. We're going to be very transparent about it. But when you have questions, you're not just talking to DALY. You're talking to Michael. You're talking to the folks at Barracuda because they are standing with us as we are demoing this product. It's not just our sales team. It's not just our engineering team. It's, again, the people at Barracuda who have had the experience, who, again, can say, we have been there, we have done that, and we are able to advise you and help guide you through this process.
So it's a partnership that we've grown with each other that's worked very well. And we want to continue making sure our partners and our customers are well aligned. And that's why we believe in you guys. So we appreciate it.
Michael, thanks so much for taking the time today. Appreciate everything that you shared with us. And again, we look forward to having you back in the future. And we look forward to having our customers talk to your team about the XDR.
Well, Rick, at Barracuda, we thank you and DALY for the partnership. And I thank you for everything you've always done for me with these podcasts. And I enjoy them. So I'm hoping to do another one soon.
Definitely. We'll have you back again soon. Thanks again.
That wraps up another insightful episode of the Daily Technology Pulse podcast. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Before we go, we want to take a moment to remind you of some important legal considerations. The views and opinions of guests on the Technology Pulse podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Daily Computers or its partners. The content provided in this podcast are for informational and entertainment uses only and should not be considered as professional advice. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of Daily Computers, Inc. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can find us at www.daly.com. The Daily Technology Pulse podcast will be back with more exciting discussions on the latest in technology. Until next time, stay curious and stay connected.